second Aranyaka, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th Adhyayas of Aitreya-Aranyaka Upanishad. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Jyoti Taravanat. Adoration to the highest self. Hari Om. Verily, in the beginning, all this was self. One only. There was nothing else blinking whatsoever. He thought, shall I send forth worlds? He sent forth these worlds. Ambas, water. Marichi, light. Mara, mortal. And up, water. That Ambas, water, is above the heaven, and it is heaven the support. The Marichis, the lights or the sky. The Mara, mortal, is the earth, and the waters under the earth are the app world. He thought, there are these worlds. Shall I send forth guardians of the worlds? He then formed the Purusha, the person, taking him forth from the water. He brooded on him, and when that person had thus been brooded on, a mouth burst forth like an egg. From the mouth proceeded speech. From speech, Agni, fire. Nostrils burst forth. From the nostrils proceeded scent, prana. From scent, vayu, air. Eyes burst forth. From the eyes proceeded sight. From sight, Aditya, sun. Ears burst forth. From the ears proceeded hearing. From hearing, the dis, quarters of the world. Skin burst forth. From the skin proceeded hairs, sense of touch. From the hairs, shrubs and trees. The heart burst forth. From the heart proceeded mind. From mind, Chandramas, moon. The navel burst forth. From the navel proceeded the apana, the down breathing. From apana, death. The generative organ burst forth. From the organ proceeded seed. From seed, water. Second Kanda. Those deities, Devata, Agni and the rest, after they had been sent forth, fell into this great ocean. Then he, the self, besieged him, the person, with hunger and thirst. The deities, then tormented by hunger and thirst, spoke to him, the self, allow us a place in which we may rest and eat food. He led a cow towards them, the deities. They said, this is not enough. He led a horse towards them. They said, this is not enough. He led man towards them. Then they said, well done indeed. Therefore man is well done He said to them, "Enter each according to his place." Then Agni, fire, having become speech, entered the mouth. Vayu, air, having become scent, entered the nostrils. Aditya, sun, having become sight, entered the eyes. The dis, regions, having become hearing, entered the ears. The shrubs and trees, having become hairs, entered the skin. Chandramas, the moon, having become mind, entered the heart. Death, having become down-breathing, entered the navel. The waters, having become seed, entered the generative organ. Then hunger and thirst spoke to him, the Self. "Allow us to a place." He said to them, "I assign you to those very deities there. I make you co-partners with them." Therefore, to whatever deity an oblation is offered, hunger and thirst are co-partners in it. Third Kanda. He thought, "There are these worlds and the guardians of the worlds. Let me send forth food for them." He brooded over the water. From the water, thus brooded on, matter, murti, was born. And that matter which was born, that verily was food. When this food, the object matter, had thus been sent forth, it wished to flee, crying and turning away. He, the subject, tried to grasp it by speech. He could not grasp it by speech. If he had grasped it by speech, man would be satisfied by naming food. He tried to grasp it by scent, breath. He could not grasp it by scent. If he had grasped it by scent, man would be satisfied by smelling food. He tried to grasp it by the eye. He could not grasp it by the eye. If he had grasped it by the eye, man would be satisfied by seeing food. He tried to grasp it by the ear. He could not grasp it by the ear. If he had grasped it by the ear, man would be satisfied by hearing food. He tried to grasp it by the skin. He could not grasp it by the skin. If he had grasped it by the skin, man would be satisfied by touching food. He tried to grasp it by the mind. He could not grasp it by the mind. If he had grasped it by the mind, man would be satisfied by thinking food. He tried to grasp it by the generative organ. He could not grasp it by the organ. If he had grasped it by the organ, man would be satisfied by sending forth food. He tried to grasp it by the down breathing, the breath which helps to swallow food through the mouth and to carry it off through the rectum, the pavindriya. He got it. Thus it is Vayu, the getter, who lays hold of food, and the Vayu is verily Annayu, he who gives life or who lives by food. He thought, how can all this be without me? And then he thought, by what way shall I get there? And then he thought, if speech names, if scent smells, if the eye sees, if the ear hears, if the skin feels, if the mind thinks, if the off-breathing digests, if the organ sends forth, then what am I? Then, opening the suture of the skull, he got in by that door. That door is called the Vidriti, tearing asunder, the Nandana, the place of bliss. There are 3 dwelling places for him, 3 dreams. This dwelling place, the eye; this dwelling place, the throat; this dwelling place, the heart. When born, when the highest self had entered the body, he looked through all things, in order to see whether anything wished to proclaim here another self. He saw this person only, himself, as the widely spread Brahman. I saw it. Thus he said. Therefore he was Idamdra, seeing this. Being Idamdra by name, they call him Indra mysteriously, for the Devas love mystery. Yeah, they love mystery. First Adhyaya, First Kanda. Let the woman who are with child move away. Verily, from the beginning, he, the self, is in man as a germ, which is called seed. This seed, which is strength gathered from all the limbs of the body, he, the man, bears as self in his self body. When he commits the seed to the woman, then he, the father, causes it to be born. That is the first birth. That seed becomes the self of the woman, as if one of her own limbs. Therefore it does not injure her. She nourishes her husband's self, the son within her. She who nourishes is to be nourished. The woman bears the germ. He, the father, elevates the child even before the birth and immediately after. When he thus elevates the child both before and after his birth, he really elevates his own self. For the continuation of these worlds, men, for thus are these worlds continued. This is his second birth. He, the son, bearing his self, is then placed in his stead for the performance of all good works. But his other self, the father, having done all he has to do, and having reached the full measure of his life, departs. After departing from hence, he is born again. That is his third birth. And this has been declared by a Rishi. While dwelling in the womb, I discovered all the births of these Devas. 100 iron strongholds kept me, but I escaped quickly, down like a falcon. Vamadeva, lying in the womb, has thus declared this. And having this knowledge, he stepped forth after this dissolution of the body, and having obtained all his desires in that heavenly world, became immortal. Yeah, he became immortal. Sixth Adhyaya, First Kanda. Let the woman go back to their place. Who is he whom we meditate on as the Self? Which is the Self? That by which we see form, that by which we hear sound, that by which we perceive smells, that by which we utter speech, that by which we distinguish sweet and not sweet, and what comes from the heart and the mind, namely perception, command, understanding, knowledge, wisdom, seeing, holding, thinking, considering, readiness or suffering, remembering, conceiving, willing, breathing, loving, desiring? No. All these are various names only of knowledge, the true Self. And that Self, consisting of knowledge, is Brahman. It is Indra. It is Prajapati. All these Devas, these 5 great elements, earth, air, ether, water, fire, these and those which are, as it were, small and mixed, and seeds of this kind and that kind, born from eggs, born from the womb, born from heat, born from germs, horses, cows, men, elephants, and whatsoever breeds, whether walking or flying, and what is immovable, all that is led, produced by knowledge, the Self. It rests on knowledge, the Self. The world is led, produced by knowledge, the Self. Knowledge is its cause. Knowledge is Brahman. He, Vamadeva, having by this conscious Self stepped forth from this world, and having obtained all desires in that heavenly world, became immortal. Yeah, he became immortal. Thus it is. Om. 7th Adhyaya, 1st Kanda. My speech rests in the mind. My mind rests in speech. Appear to me, thou the highest Self. You, speech and mind, are the 2 pins that hold the wheels of the Veda. May what I have learnt not forsake me. I join day and night with what I have learnt. I shall speak of the real. I shall speak the true. May this protect me. May this protect the teacher. May it protect me. May it protect the teacher. Yeah, the teacher. End of 2nd Aranyaka, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th Adhyayas. Recording by Jyoti Taravanat.